For joining us, brother.
Peace, my brother. How you be?
I'm doing okay, brother. One day and 8 hours later, here we are.
That's right. You made it happen, though.
Yes, we did. I got something blocking me on the screen, so if you could sit a little bit to your left, we could see you.
The image. There's
Yeah.
an image up.
Yeah. There you go. Just get a little bit more to your left. Bang, you got it now. Okay, so there's been a lot going on online right now as it relates to some statements that Fat Joe has made. Not the least of which was saying that Blacks and Puerto Ricans created hip hop 50-50. We're going to come back to Fat Joe in a minute. But his controversy and his fallout has to do with FBA, people who are of African ancestry, who refuse to acknowledge their African ancestry, and instead choose to say that they are foundational Black Americans. So the first question, Brother Agyei, becomes, what is your assessment and what is your opinion on this identification as foundational Black Americans?
Well, I'm gonna say honestly, can you see me?
I can see you, brother.
See you at all.
I can see you.
Okay. This is not something I did a lot of research on, technically FBA and all that, but I will say this. Groups like ADOS, African Descendants of Slaves, and FBA Foundational Black Americans kind of share something in common. They claim to advocate for Black Americans who descended from enslaved Africans. But their approach, and it is true that those of us who were, let's say, born in the United States have had a different experience than, let's say, those of us who were born on the continent of Africa. This is why, one of the reasons why the Republic of New Africa came up with the term New Africans, that we are African descended, but we went through a unique experience that was different from that of our African ancestors. So in that respect, they're right. The problem is the way they approach the question promotes division amongst the community. So for instance, they kind of xenophobic. They got this problem with Black people who immigrated from other countries in the diaspora. They reject Pan-Africanism and this idea that there's a diaspora, we have a common enemy, sort of common historical struggle, that we should be working together. They focus on reparations just for Black Americans. And they tend to echo and mimic white nationalist narratives. Brother Malcolm told us that we should have oppositional logic. But when we start sounding like our enemies, endorsing candidates that are clearly fascist, white, racist, and taking their and kind of emulating their take on Black people who are immigrating from other parts of the world, then we have a problem. And they make our mission to unify our people around the world more difficult because they're creating more division and hostility. So if Fat Joe, as I didn't see his whole piece, but if he said anything to that effect, he's right. However, he has some other things he said that are questionable, that speaks to larger issues that I hope to get to in the course of this particular program.
Oh, we will, brother. So, first thing I would say is the fact that the term foundational Black Americans. I first heard this, and it came across my radar a while back when I heard Dr. Claude Anderson use the term. He's the first person I heard say that. Now, you know who Dr. Claude Anderson is. I'm sure you respect him. He's a brilliant economist. However, when it comes to identity and culture, Dr. Claude Anderson is missing a piece there. He even thumbs his nose at the idea of Pan-Africanism. So that kind of lets you know, where he is in terms of the idea of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism. So FBA people jumped on that and they started to run with it. This idea that somehow they're foundational Black Americans, and they have absolutely nothing to do with, Black people from the Caribbean, Black people from Africa, Black people from anywhere else. They're saying there's something new and different. So now I would say there is no genetic DNA test you can take that's going to tell you you're a foundational Black American. That is completely a fictional, fabricated, contrived identity. And so I noticed that there's a lot of these anti-African ideologies seem to pop up around the same time. You had FBA, which is a splinter group from ADOS. And then now there's another splinter group off of FBA called Freedmen. And they're all kind of saying the same thing. They're saying they're not African, have nothing to do with African people. So you got, first of all, Brother Agyei, because you're an educator in the classroom, race is based on phenotype. And so these people have they're brown skin with Afro hair. They have African features and the anthropomorphic features of an African. Their DNA would tell them that they're African, but somehow they're saying that they're not African. It's hard for me to say that without laughing. But what are your thoughts on that idea?
Pardon me, brother. I'm trying to arrange myself so you can see me. Well, here's the thing, man. I tend to look at general things. So without me even doing a lot of research on these type of groups, the fact that some of them were endorsing Donald Trump, that many of them were banging on Kamala Harris, and I'm not trying to say I was pro Kamala Harris either. The fact that they are they're leaning more towards the conservative side in terms of public policy, the fact that they exacerbate already existing tensions in our community tells me from the jump, and they sound like my enemy. It tells me from the jump something's wrong with that. I think sometimes, first of all, I don't know where her name was Yvette Carter. I don't know where she came from, but I know back in the 80s, early 90s, Harikna, she was writing books on being a pimp, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
So I don't man, let me tell you like this. I tend to trust people who are tested and tried. People who have a history of organizing, activism, challenging white hegemony, white supremacy, challenging their racist institutions. Those are the people I tend to trust. A lot of people tend to pop up out of nowhere and have very strong opinions about all types of things. So you wonder, well, if you were feeling that strongly about it, where were you from 1980 all the way to the present?
Right.
What were you doing? Where's your body of work dealing with racism and white supremacy and black resistance? What institutions did you build or organizations were you a part of? What racist structure did you challenge? What black people were you organizing to build nationhood? So if you ask me, I just start there. So I get suspicious when I don't see certain things, and when I do see certain things, as I just kind of elaborated. And so I would start there. I'm not very trusting of when I see people don't have that type of background. People sound like my enemy. People supporting an arch enemy. I mean, I just, the math doesn't add up, man. Yeah. And I think sometimes people just want a platform, my brother. Some people just want their own thing. I think that Chancellor Williams actually alluded to that in his groundbreaking book, Destruction of Black Civilization. Everybody wants to be the chief and the king. Everybody don't want to do the work and the study to be a chief and a king, but everybody wants to be a chief and a king. So what happens is you have a lot of people that just vying for a title to say, I got an office and here's our newspaper, but they don't have no program for black people, and their program is suspicious because it's sounding so much like our enemy's program. And then I wouldn't be surprised if upon doing some research, we might find some funding resources tied to our enemies. I wouldn't be surprised if we did research and we found certain people were buddy with people who the Black community rejects. That's where I'm coming from with these type of organizations. I don't trust them, brother.
I got you. So you had ADOS, which you mentioned, Yvette Carnell. Mark from Anaheim. Not sure if you know who he is. He's like the modern day Steve Coakley. He's out there in California on the West Coast. Either way, he said after doing some research that ADOS was created by Steve Bannon, who was one of Donald Trump's henchmen in his first administration. He just was released from prison recently for some impropriety that he was involved with. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about, our enemy is spewing their message through people that look like you and I, there actually is some truth to that. So the funny thing is, ADOS is fake. It's an astroturf organization, and I can get into what that means because, grassroots comes from the ground up, right? Astroturf is from the top down. And astroturf organizations are created to make it seem as if there's widespread support for an idea that there's really not widespread support for. So ADOS is fake, and FBA is basically a Xerox copy of a fake document because they are a spinoff of ADOS. And then you have Friedman, which is coming behind FBA. These are some people that fell out with them, and they started their own group. And so all of this goes back to a right-wing conservative agenda to not only misguide Black people, but to cause division among the groups. So now I think it's interesting. You say a lot of these people, they pop up out of nowhere. And, Amos Wilson years ago wrote a book called Blueprint for Black Power. Many of these people are fake experts who are spewing pseudo-intellectualism on the internet. And these are internet-based movements that spew a lot of disinformation. And a lot of the people that become the face of them, they don't want power. They don't want Black power. These people just want attention. And in some instances, I wouldn't be surprised if they're taking money under the table to spew the disinformation. Now, Brother Agyei, here's the next question. I notice ADOS pops up, and then FBA comes out of that. Friedman comes out of that. You also have another group of people saying that we're not African. Somehow we're indigenous Americans and Aboriginal Americans. And it's, expression online came about ABA, anything but African. What is your assessment of that classification? ABA, these people want to be anything else but African. Is that self-hate? What are we seeing?
Well, I'm going to definitely get into the self-hate a little later, for sure. But I could say this. If people know the history of the historiography of Africa, historiography for those watching means it refers to how history was rendered in a particular time or a particular place for a particular people. Prior to colonization, Africa, the historiography of Africa was that European scholars wrote of Africa with great admiration and great respect. The Arabic historian Ibn Khaldun, I think Ibn al-Khaldun, Herodotus, right? These people were writing. If you read Gerald Vassey's volumes in history, his thick volumes of history, he tells you that these European scholars were going to Africa, sitting at the feet of your and my ancestors in places like the Grand Lodge of Luxor and Timbuktu and the civilization of Mali, where there's over 70,000 written manuscripts to this day, complete manuscripts, bound. And they were learning arts and sciences, geometry, what we might today call metaphysics, and all types of mathematics, all types of things, right? We were referred to, Herodotus said we were giants amongst men and women, that we were handsome men and women. All of a sudden, when colonization becomes more of the norm, let's say in the 17th, 18th centuries, 19th centuries rather, the writing changes because now they have to justify the exploitation of Africans. So now we become primitive, uncivilized, cannibalistic, violent, sex deviants, and all these things in order to justify. They did the same thing with Chinese people. They did the same thing with indigenous or quote unquote Native American. It's a pattern, right? So if people understand that, they'll get it. Yeah. Now when white folk wanna move on you, they create a whole propaganda campaign that usually is designed to demoralize the people, denigrate them, humiliate them, stigmatize them, and then this becomes their justification, supposedly, of taking advantage of people.
Okay, so now next thought that I had was this idea of people of African heritage referring to themselves as American and American only, whether it be American descendants of slavery or foundational Black Americans. America, as you know, was named after Amerigo Vespucci, who was an Italian explorer. And he was the first European who came here and determined that this was not Asia and this was a different part of the world. This shows forth the European ignorance of geography. The point is, if you call yourself American, you're honoring the people that harmed you and brutalized your ancestors, which is the point that you just spoke to. So the question becomes, why would you do that? No, I don't think you can show me any group of people who would deliberately name themselves after their oppressor. Nobody else would ever do that. And so you're not supposed to refer to yourself by the name of the group of the people that caused you harm. That is illogical. If you do, you've been intellectually colonized and you've been conquered. What are your thoughts on that idea about calling yourself American anything?
Well, obviously, there are those of us who are more in the nationalist, Pan-Africanist side of ideology, who, like Malcolm say, I'm not an American, I'm not a patriot, I'm not a flag waver, right? Of which I'm one. That's why I got rid of the white man's names I was given and have African names since 1991. I disavow their attempt to at cultural hegemony, forcing their culture down our throats with their names, their religions, renaming ancient places, and all these other things. The other thing, though, the reason why, because I know your question is part rhetorical, why would you do that? But there's an answer to that. And the answer is this. There are some of us that are neo-colonial leaders. Kwame Nkrumah wrote the book, Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, and he broke it down. Malcolm kind of talked about it in certain respect when he talked about the house Negro, the field Negro, the overseers. But the neo-colonial leaders are the people that look just like you and me, who come from the same neighborhoods, have the same cultural sensibility, but they work for our enemies as kind of their go-betweens. In the community, they come off like they're for us, right? They got a little organization, the guys coming to meetings, they feeding little things in our ear, but they're really plants working for the mayor's office, the governor's office, white business, corporate elites, getting paid by them, sometimes on paper and sometimes under the table, to pacify us and sometimes to directly mislead us, so that these corporate people can suck our blood a little bit more efficiently, right? 5% Nation refers to such people as the 10%ers, the bloodsuckers of the poor, right? So I would suspect that people like this remind me of neo-colonial leaders, like they're set up. They weren't elected by the community. The community didn't ask them to come there. These people were selected by our enemies, conveniently placed in our communities, given money to get offices and all the accoutrements of leadership. And we really put there to misdirect us, to pacify us, to mislead us, and to make us easy pickings for our enemies. That's what I believe in my heart. I believe that's why they got to put American in there, to show their allegiance. In other words, some of us are nationalists. We want a nation for Black people. Some of us don't want to be on their plantation with nice clothes and nice jobs. We want to get off their plantation and get our own nation. Some of us are cool. We just want the plantation to be a little cleaner, nice colors, nice homes, but still be on the plantation, right? So when you hear that America, that's the saying to the enemy, we rocking with you. We want to be down. And if you just give us some money and some office space and some access to your media, we will pacify these angry Negroes and we'll put them in a position right where you want them to be. Malcolm talked about it with the March on Washington. It's the same thing. Same exact thing.
Okay, now I know myself just speaking out, thinking out loud. You and I can both do an hour on ADOS, FBA, and all of these anti-African ideologies that just popped up out of nowhere around the same time, which makes them all seem fishy to me. But we want to transition over into Fat Joe and some statements that he made, not only regarding FBA, because I think we already kind of put out our assessment of FBA, but Fat Joe said hip-hop was created by Blacks and Puerto Ricans 50-50. What is your reaction to that?
Oh, there's a short answer. Hell no. Incorrect. Non-cipher. Okay. Wrong. Emphatically non-cipher.
Now, I know you have some ties to this only because you went to school with Diamond D, who produced Fat Joe's first album. So you're not speaking as an outsider. You're speaking as someone that's looking from the inside out. But I'm going to let you continue.
And I am somebody that was an actual MC. I'm part of hip hop, literally, not just talk on from the outside. That's important because that means that I can tell you who I remember seeing in those circles. I can tell you what roles I remember seeing people in, and I have OGs that was schooling me that can tell you who they saw, who's around them, right? So let me say this, man. The first thing is the answer to that question, did Latinos create hip-hop? Was it 50-50? Is a short answer. No, that's not true. Let me explain. Black people created hip-hop. Why do I say that? Because we defined and developed the different elements of hip-hop culture. We created the music that was the foundation that hip-hop drew from. So think about this. We created funk music, right? Did Puerto Ricans help create funk music too?
No.
Nope. We created soul music. Were Puerto Ricans and Latinos part of something? No. We created R&B. We created jazz. Now, guess what? Hip-hop comes from those elements of music. So it kind of follows, right, that hip-hop is coming from the forms of music, all created by Black people. So now hip-hop is going to be different? No. Hip-hop was created by young brothers and sisters that were Black. We created the slang. We defined, we came up with the verbiage, the vocabulary, the fashion. Now, certain elements of the Latino community, I'm thinking especially Puerto Ricans, because in the 70s, there were large, particularly where hip hop started in the Bronx, South Bronx, there were large populations of Blacks and Latinos that lived right together next to each other. So naturally, what's called cultural diffusion, when people live together and do trade and do business and go to school together, they exchange ideas, they exchange different elements of their culture. So naturally, yes, there definitely were Puerto Ricans that were involved with hip hop because they were there, right? I remember them, though, being especially involved with things like graffiti art, breakdancing, every now and then some DJing, and even more rare, MCing. But on the music side of hip hop, especially, that was mostly Black people. Now, the thing is that most OGs you talk to who are Black, who are down with hip hop, will tell you that. They'll give it up to Puerto. They say, "Oh yeah, I remember Charlie Chase and Whip a Whip," and they'll name Tito from Fearless 4, right? Manhattanville Projects. They'll tell you, they'll name people. They say, "Yeah, I remember them." But understand, we give it up. You see, this is important. Black people will say, "Oh no, there was Puerto Ricans there." I just talked to one of my OGs that put me on the hip hop young. He said, "Oh no, he's naming people." I said, "Okay, yeah." But even he said, "But don't get that confused to mean that we were co-partners in building hip hop." No, Black people created that art form, just like Black people created the spirituals, R&B, the blues, jazz, soul, right, and funk. Let's keep it real. All right. Now here's the thing. The difference is that you don't see that same love sometimes coming from some elements of the Latino community. They don't Some elements of the Latino community don't give it up like that. We even got activists. As a teacher, when we started our school called Knowledge and Power Preparatory Academy 24 years ago, well, our thing was that we were building a school for Black and brown students. Because we're in the Bronx. That's who's there. Poor, marginalized, suffering with literacy deficiencies, math deficiencies, victims of police brutality. So when we were looking at it, we're like, yeah, definitely we down for Black people. But you know what? Those are our cousins too. We're gonna make room for them too. Because we were Pan-Africans who recognize that they're part of our African diaspora. We don't always get that reciprocation, that same type of treatment. And I'm gonna need a few minutes, my brother. You gotta bear with me to get into this now.
Take your time.
I want to give some personal examples of my experiences with anti-Black Latino hostility personally. And then I want to get into the much deeper question, because that Fat Joe video got everybody talking about hip hop. Well, Puerto Ricans in hip hop. I'm gonna tell you what, that question is the tip of the iceberg. That's not even the real issue. The real issue underneath all of this, because it seems like there's some members of the Latino community who got a little bit of a resentment there. Seems like there's a little bit of hostility going on with the brothers and sisters, against the brothers and sisters. Why is that? Where does that come from? And that's the real issue that is unresolved, that we need to have conversation about and resolve that. First, let me get into my experiences. You know, I was a teenager in Harlem, and, you know, there was a gang called the Ball Busters. The Ball Busters was a group of, I believe they were Dominican men. They had female affiliates. They had chains and bats and knives. And what they would do was jump individual Black people. Yeah. They would go to certain middle schools and high schools, and they'd be there, you know, in their neck of the woods with their weapons, and they would jump individual brothers and sisters. The brothers and sisters would fight one-on-one and smash them. And they would jump, and this was going on and on and on. One of my boys' mother and father sent him to his relatives down south because he was fighting them, beating them up, and then they would come back and jump him every week. So it was like, man, we gotta these people gonna kill him. So they sent him down south. That's the first thing. To my knowledge, there was no Black gang of people going around beating up Latino people. I can't think of one. I never saw it. If anything, we had Zulu Nation in the neighborhood. We had G-Force. We had Anthill Mob, Cigar Mob. I don't remember none of them going around saying we're going to jump Latino people. Not one of them. And Zulu Nation, as you know, was integrated in that respect. There was Latinos in Zulu Nation. We welcomed Latinos in. It was created by a Black man, but Latinos were welcomed in through the being part of hip hop. So that's the first thing. The second thing I remember in middle school, one of my best friends was a Latino brother. His friend, who lived in his neighborhood, who was also Latino, didn't like the fact that his boy was hanging out with a brother. So he started pressuring him, needling him. Why you always with that negrito? Why you always with that guy, man? You know, man, you a sellout, man. You a traitor. So one day I'm talking with my boy, and he tries to sucker punch me. I move, he hits the wall, breaks his hand. Right? Next thing I know, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Next thing I know, they trying to jump me. Right? So that's another experience. I just want to put this together. Another experience. I told you we started middle school 24 years ago, Knowledge and Power Preparatory Academy. Myself, a Vietnamese sister, and an Afro-Barinquan brother named Richard Tanker, one of my jugnas with respect to education. The baddest school counselor, healer, therapist ever in history, because the school we came from was a gang-ridden school. This was like you see in the movies where they didn't like it. They slash your tires, bust your windshield. It was bad. And I saw this man go in and de-escalate. He'd go in and de-escalate any situation. So we left there and went to KIP Academy, and then we started our own school. One day, I'm teaching my lesson, and the principal calls me out, sends a teacher, calls me out of class. The teacher comes in, is a sub for my class. You got to come to this meeting. There's a parent that's furious with you, and he's really upset. He wants to talk. So they pull me out my class. Now, I need y'all to know, they rarely pull a teacher out of class while they're teaching, right? So I'm like, what's going on? I get to our office, and there's this Puerto Rican man. He is red. I mean, he's livid. He has his little daughter, a little 6th grade daughter. And I said, what's the problem? His daughter, he can't speak English, so the daughter is translated. Mr. Tyehimba, my dad's mad at the lesson you gave us yesterday. Now, the lesson I had given, which I only gave because the teacher asked me to give it, was what is the lineage or the origin, the heritage of Latino people? So I broke it down. They have a triple heritage. They relate to Spaniards, what we might call indigenous or Native Americans, and Africans. Hello. So I'm explaining to the principal who wasn't there, what did you teach? This is what I taught about. So then I said, let me ask this guy a question. Through his daughter translating, I said, ask him, was he upset that I said that they came from Native Americans? No. Was he upset that I said they came from Spaniards? No. So he was upset that I said they came from Africans? Yeah, he was livid. So I had to tell that man in front of his daughter, well, sir, I'm sorry, but that's the history. That's what it is. You did come from it. I can't change the history for you. But the real question that I hope that someday you'll grapple with is, why are you so upset about having a descendancy coming through the lineage of Africa? So that's the third incident. The fourth incident was I was working a job many, years later, and one of the brothers I was supervising became a good friend of mine, and he told me that he was registering for a class at a community college. He was on the line, and there was a sister, a black woman in front of him, who asked to get in a particular class. The lady behind the desk was Latina and said, "Oh no, that class is closed." So the sister was frustrated. "Oh man, I really need." She said, "Sorry, it's closed. I don't know what to tell you." So she left. So my boy, right, who is Honduran and whose last name is Spanish, right, comes up, and says, "Hey, my name is so. I was going to ask for the same class that she did, but since you said it's closed," so he's walking away. So he said, "No, come back. I'll let you in." Lets him in the class. When he asked why'd you say familia? Huh? I hope y'all hearing me. I'm not making none of this up. Right now, with a wink and a nod, like, you good. Now, if that bothers anybody, let me now go into the history. And I want to give a disclaimer to Brother Ralo. I'm on his show to show respect to his show, and to any Latino person that may be watching or listening, and to any black person who's like, man, Latinos are my people. I don't like you disrespecting. I want to be very clear that I have rolled all my life with a segment of Latino people who know who they are, who know where they come from, and who rock with black people to the dirt. Understand? Built a school with some, fought on college campuses for some, fought alongside some to get rid of racist principles in the Bronx. So I'm not talking to them, to those Latinos who know who their mothers and fathers are with respect to civilization. I'm talking to the ones who have serious anti-black, anti-African resentment and hostility, who are self-loathing, who hate the African blood coursing through their veins, and therefore when they see black people, there's a hatred similar to the same hatred that white people have for black people. So now let me talk about the history of anti-black hostility from Latinos, and this goes all across Latin America. In Brazil, what they tried to do was have interbreed. Well, I don't want to say interbreeding, but they would have the darker complected people get with the Anglo-looking people, and they thought that if they kept doing that, the offspring would get lighter and lighter, and soon would get to a point where you wouldn't see any vestiges or semblance of African features. That was their approach. Right now in Brazil, Afro-Brazilians are overrepresented in low-wage jobs with poor to no benefits. Black men are disproportionately victims of police brutality. Sound familiar? In Colombia, Afro-Colombian communities have been forcibly displaced, told to get up and get out by military and multinational corporations. They are routinely the victims of kidnappings, rapes, forced recruitment of children into military groups right now. In fact, I got a dude that's hitting me up from Peru that wants to come on the show and talk about it. In Mexico, Afro-Mexican communities have limited access to public services. They face high levels. In fact, the highest levels of poverty are from the Afro-Mexican communities. For decades, they didn't even include them in the national census family. And in 2021, a migrant brother from Ghana suffered a stroke. He needed desperate medical attention. The ambulance came and asked him to pay for the ambulance.
Wow.
They asked him, you gonna pay? We're not gonna take it till you pay for the ambulance. Right? He gets to the hospital refuses to let him in.
Wow.
Sound familiar?
Wow.
Right? Okay. And he died, by the way. Now, let's not forget that Brother Malik Shabazz, the grandson of Brother Malcolm X, visiting Mexico, where he's just off of a tour trying to fight for Mexican workers' benefits in the United States. See how we get down? He's fighting for Mexican workers' rights in the United States. He goes to Mexico, right? And he's killed. He's beaten to death outside of a bar because of a dispute over what was owed. Beaten to death. The men were eventually, 3 men were arrested. 3 of them were waiters, and they were eventually let go right there in Mexico City. In the Dominican Republic, there was a dictator named Rafael Trujillo from 1930 to 1961. He was the dictator there, right? Now, this guy had Haitian blood. I'm going to see, this is the crazy one. I'm going to say it again. He had Haitian ancestry, and he hated it. He hated those drops of Haitian African blood in him. And he made people pay as a result, right? So he starts a whole campaign of massacring Haitians, because, at that time there were Haitians that lived in the Dominican Republic, right? So this guy, there was a massacre called the Parsley Massacre in 1937. Parsley Massacre, they call it because what he told the soldiers was, when you go throughout the communities in the Dominican Republic, ask if they look dark, ask them to pronounce the Spanish word for parsley, right? And the Haitians, when they said this word, it always had that Haitian Creole accent. He said, when you hear that Haitian Creole accent, kill them. These people killed between 12,000 and 35,000 Haitians living in the Dominican Republic, hacking them to death with machetes. He said that Haitians were a threat to Dominican sovereignty and culture. And then he, as he's welcoming all types of Anglo Latinos to the Dominican Republic, he's mass deporting, right? The darker complected, some of them weren't even Haitian, they were Dominican.
Wow.
Even though they live on the same island, so it doesn't matter. But he's mass deporting dark complected Dominican citizens and Haitian citizens that were living or visiting in the Dominican Republic, right? And then let's keep going. right? According to the in Peru, according to the Center for Afro-Peruvian Studies and Promotion, up to 70% of Afro-Peruvians do not seek medical attention for fear of discrimination when they get to the hospital.
Wow.
What type of things are going on in them hospitals? when the dark complected Afro-Peruvians go to, why would they say, you know what? I'd rather take my chances out here than go to the hospital. I'm afraid they're going to do something. Why is there such a fear? So, and I should also note that in all of these countries and those I did not name, it is a rule. The darker you are, the uglier you are. The dumber you are, the greater the chance that you're on the bottom of the economic totem pole. The more you are prone to ridicule, humiliation, and being stigmatized. So now this comes to this question. So those Latinos, and then remember, I'm giving you a segment of the Latino population because I'm not dumb enough or insensitive enough to think that one group is anything. We got some people in our race that are backwards and ignorant, correct?
That's correct. Absolutely, yes.
So what I'm saying about this group is the same about some of us too. So this ain't all Latinos. But listen, those Latinos, those watching this show, if you feel you being excluded, you being dismissed, you being mistreated, you right. But your problem ain't with us, family. Your problem ain't with black people because we've never dismissed, excluded, and mistreated you. We've included you, right? Your problem, we never called, our parents never called you any offensive names. We never refused to socialize with you. We didn't teach our children that you were inferior, but some of you did. Your real problem is with the people that colonized the land of your ancestors. Your problem and your beef is with the people that exploited your people's labor and nearly wiped them off the face of this earth everywhere they existed. Your problem is with the people that forced you to speak Spanish, that took your indigenous religions and forced you to practice Catholicism, that took your original names and gave you names like Rodriguez and Gonzalez and Vargas and Sanchez and Ramirez and Lopez and Cortez. And until you learn to recognize and cherish your African ancestry and treat your African brothers and sisters with the respect they deserve based on the respect they've given you, until you overcome your self-hatred and fall out of love with the Europeans that had colonized, enslaved, and exploited you, there's always going to be tension with us, family. Because one thing, I'm one of these people, I'm like, yo, I'm Pan-African. I'm nationalist and Pan-African. But I believe in reciprocity. I'm not going to keep looking out and for people that's blatantly disrespecting me and mine. So this Fat Joe thing, people think this is about hip-hop. This ain't about hip-hop, family. There's a resentment from Latinos to black people that goes way back. Listen, there was oh man, I do not remember this dude's name. He was the first and only African descended president of Colombia. And they didn't even let him stay in office that long. They took this man's presidential portrait and sent it to Paris so they could lighten the shit up.
Wow. Wow.
Don't believe me, family. Look all of this up. They sent his portrait to Paris, right? Because I guess they had better artistic techniques and chemicals, whatever, to lighten his portrait up so he wouldn't look black. And we're not going to talk about the fact, and I should tell you, a lot of these countries, they have parades and they're dancing in blackface, family. Yeah. And a lot of these countries have sayings. I don't know it in Spanish, but it goes something like, dang, they working you like a black guy.
Wow.
Dag, you stupid. They treating you like you stupid, like a black person. Yeah. Ask Latinos, they tell you. I'm not making this up. I saw a whole documentary, a grown man, 40 years old, dark complected Latino, crying like a baby, boohoo crying, because he said that his own parents and family rejected him because of his phenotype, his melanin. He said the only people that took him in, guess who? The black man and woman. So I have a message. I got to say this from my heart because I got love for people, got love for me. If we gonna rock, we either gonna rock or we not. But I'm gonna tell you, if we rock, there's some apologies due. There's conversations that must be held. There's some humility that must be demonstrated. All scriptures say, honor thy mother and father that thy days may be long upon the earth. And this is not said offensively. You would rather claim the ancestry mark off in the census that you're white? Some of you would rather claim the ancestry of people that absolutely despise your very presence than claim the African blood that courses through your veins. That's a sickness. And this is not you alone, because guess what? Some of us had the sickness too. We had paper bag tests. We had blue vein societies. You couldn't get in unless we could see the blue in your vein, which means you had to be light. So the same dog, racist dog that bit you, bit us, as Brother Malcolm said. That's why we have similar sicknesses. All right, but that ain't all of us. And that's not all of you. But those of you who are still sick, you still got time to get on the right side of this board and the right side of this question. This ain't about hip hop. It may seem like it at the top, but underneath that, there's a lot of scabs being pulled. There's a lot of rot, decay, and bitterness over this question of people misdirecting venom towards us. We don't deserve the venom from Latino people. We include you in hip hop. We even give you props. We said, no, so-and-so's in hip hop, so-and-so, but you didn't invent it. We're not going to lie to make you feel good, family. But we also going to defend you. That's why you got all these black organizations that got Latino people in them. Black gangs got Latino people in them. Yeah, black households that got Latino people in them. And I can keep going. That's never been our way to say, no, you can't date this. We ain't never come with that energy, but some of y'all did. So the question is, why do you have that such venom with us? And that needs to be resolved amongst yourselves, not with us. So I'm glad that Fat Joe said what he said. I'm glad people uptight, right? Very important. Maybe we'll have some real discussions. And let me also say, now that I spent time talking about the self-hating, ignorant Latino population, let me talk about the Afro-Barincans, the Afro-Cubans, the Afro-Colombians, the ones that know where they come from and that rock with us and we rock with them. Instead of behaving like racist Europeans, think and behave like those amongst you who embrace their African ancestry, who see themselves as our first cousins in the struggle for liberation. These are the Latinos that created the brown berets, the young lords that placed that prefix Afro in front of their nationality, that participate in African dance, that appreciate our jazz and appreciate our musical forms and add to them and add their own unique flavor to them, no question, right? They're the ones that fight, dance, love, and struggle alongside black people. And that's the way it should be. And any organization telling you otherwise is misleading you. And any Latino family member, friend, whatever, that's trying to get you to hate on a black man or woman, they are backwards and they don't know their history. Because the people they're trying to align with can't stand you. They can't stand the very sight of you. And that's why Donald Trump is telling you straight up, I'm going to deport you, break up your families. I don't give a damn. Talking about y'all eat dogs and all types of stuff. And you aligning with that, that's sick. And so, my brother, you got to pardon me, but somebody got to tell it. We got to tell it like it is. That has to get resolved. Fat Joe, thank you for what you said. Maybe this will get black people to start having these real conversations. What you hate on us for? That's the person you should be hating on. We ain't stop you from eating. We ain't call you names like you called us, some of you. Huh? Yeah, I remember. Man, I got so, I'm not going to get into it. I got so many stories personally I could tell you. But I just gave you the history. So, family, for me, that's really what's good. That's what people got to know. And I'm a historian. I'm not talking a bunch of what I think. All of this is verifiable. You can look any of it up. Look up that Dominican piece of trash, dictator Trujillo. 30 years, the things he did to dark complected people on that island that Haiti and Dominican Republic share. And you know what? When you see that, now I understand why the ball busters hated us. I get it. They were nurtured in a place where we were made to seem like monsters. I was in a cab, my brother Ralo, and I like to pick the brains because the cab drivers come from all over the world, as you know. And the one guy said he was from Dominican Republic. I said, "Oh man, did you ever hear negative things in your family, your household about Haitians?" Said, "Oh my God." He said, "My mother and father taught me that Haitians had tails."
Wow.
Yes, sir. I'm not making that up. That's what he told me.
Mm.
And he said he believed it until I think he said he dated a Haitian girl, and he found out that was he's looking for a tail.
Wow.
So the problem here for me is that we do the same. I want to be real clear. I want to be honest. There's black people like that too. There's black people that talking about they'll say that they're Latino. There's some black people that are ashamed to say that they have African ancestry. And it might be the case, Brother Ralo, that you may have been alluding to. Some of our FBA ADOS people might be in that number. They might suffer from what Brother Malcolm said, man. It's a sickness when you hate on yourself. And when you have self-loathing, it manifests in many ways.
Mm.
The black cop that hates his people is going to be the most vicious and brutal of any of the cops. That's a fact, right? So we see this play out time and time again. And I don't know everything about hip hop. I don't know everything about anything, but I could tell you my life, what I've been through, what I've seen. I can tell you what my OGs have shared with me. And I could tell you what the history books say, family. So my Latino brothers and sisters, those of y'all who are down by law, who are real with the community, you know I ain't talking about you. But you know, some of your mamas and papas and siblings, and you heard what they said. And you go with them coconut, they call all types of ugly names.
Mm.
It made you feel bad for hanging out with the brothers and sisters. And then here's the thing. Those of you who participate in the culture, benefit from the culture. See, I came with people that were doing graffiti. I'm not going to name one guy, big in Paris. He's a multi-millionaire. Came right out the crew. People we was hanging with. Shout out to Beaven. Shout out to Ross. Shout out to my man Rope Diddy, F Troop crew. Came right out the crew. Now he's in Europe doing all types of art. Comes right out the crew. He's Puerto Rican. That would be like him now saying, "Yeah, we started this. I don't like them black people. Nigga. When the last time you heard a black person come up with a Latino racial or ethnic slur? How many times you hear Latinos nigga every 5 seconds like Fat Joe?
All the time.
Now, some of us do it too, but I'm saying. So we have to have that conversation. And there have to be some apologies, some reparations. Not necessarily monetarily, but people got to be able to say, no, you're right. We can't really think of too many incidents where black people were exclusive or excluded us or called us mean names or told us we couldn't date or who we could hang out with. We got to be honest, because this thing is going to get worse and worse until somebody's honest and talks about that. Because see, the people you talk about, you need to be rocking with. People you call yourself arguing, debating with, you need to be listening to and working with and organizing with against the person that really hates you. I didn't take your name, language, culture, religion. Come on, man. I'm done, bro.
All right, I like that. Good lesson. So in your history of Latin America, there's one incident that you neglected to mention, and you did an excellent job. But I just want to add another layer to what you said. Years ago, if you can recall, some elected officials in Argentina said that there are no black people in Argentina. Do you remember that?
Oh, yo, brother, I'm so glad you brought that up. I watched the clip. I watched the clip when he said it. There's a dark-complected sister, beautiful sister, interviewing him. He said, "There's no Black Colombian," and they show all these Black Colombians watching remotely, like what, bugging out.
Wow.
But listen, now here's the thing: there was a leader of Venezuela, Chavez. See, he was an Afro-Venezuelan. He said he was on 60 Minutes. Go look it up. He's on 60 Minutes. He said, what do you think about black? He said, oh, those are my ancestors. Mother Africa is part of our ancestry. He said, I get my lips in it. He's breaking it down. And it just so happens that he came to the United States. He came to the South Brizongs, the boogie down, and he gave mad petroleum during the winter for free so that Black and brown people could heat their buildings. This is so it's important you understand everybody ain't the same, family. There's some Latinos that's down by law. And those of y'all in hip-hop know what I mean. Down by law. We rock with them, they rock with us. And there's some who are sick, just like we got some in our community, in our race that are sick, man, that have self-hating issues. So I had to get into that. I know this is gonna be controversial, and y'all gonna be calling me names in the comments. I don't give a damn.
Now you showing proof, bro.
It is what it is. Look it up. Get mad at the history.
Yeah, you showing proof. Anybody mad at you doesn't understand that, and you showing proof. So anyone that is angry at that is just basically in denial because you broke it down. Now, there's another aspect of the conversation. There are some people who are still trying to associate, I guess, Puerto Ricans with the origin of hip hop, and they coined a new expression, the Latin breakdown. Now, brother Agyei, I've been following hip hop from almost the beginning, just like you have. Now, in hip hop, there is no such expression as the Latin breakdown. Now, in hip hop, you got break beats, right? A break beat can come from an R&B record, come from a funk record. A break beat can come from a rock record, like Billy Squier, Big Beat, or Aerosmith, Walk This Way. A break beat can come from a jazz record. Prince Paul found a break beat on a Mickey Mouse record. The point is, no matter where a break beat comes from, it's called a break beat. There's never been any such expression in hip hop as the Latin breakdown. So now they're trying to say that the Latin breakdown is when they use a lot of hand percussion and cowbells, as in the case of like a Jimmy Castor Bunch, Just Begun, or Incredible Bongo Band. They're calling that the Latin breakdown. And that's coming from another misnomer that hand percussion is Latin percussion. Hand percussion is not Latin percussion. That's a misnomer. It's actually African percussion. In fact, the conga drum, which is a staple in Spanish language music, conga drum comes from the Congo, which is in Africa. So no such thing as Latin percussion. So there can be no Latin breakdown in hip hop. That's a misnomer. What is your opinion on this idea of the Latin breakdown that they're trying to tie Puerto Ricans to hip hop in that way?
Well, I never heard of it. The first time I heard it is when you mentioning that. And again, because I know what it's like, and our people, we know what it's like to feel left out, to feel excluded, to feel like, everybody else did something, and when it comes to you, it's like womp womp. And we know what it's like to say, nah, man, we did something too, and beat our chests. I understand, but you gotta be right and exact. Don't make no shit up. Don't lie and don't fabricate. Don't bite, as we know is slang in hip hop. Be original. Bring your original flavor. So, for instance, I got one of my OGs in hip hop. He did breakdance, graffiti, electric boogie, DJing, and MC. Rope Diddy, Prince of the City. Shout out to him. He told me, brother, we invented it. He said, but I want to be clear. He said, I've seen Latinos take the breakdancing. They added a unique element to some of the breakdancing that me and some of the people I was around saw. He said, I'll give them that. Definitely. He said some of the art, and then he names a few DJs, a few MCs, but he gave most of the credit to breakdancing and art. But notice, he gives it up. See, that's the thing. What disturbs me, Brother Ralo, is that people, first of all, are lying. The OGs, the Latino OGs that was there, that's down by law, you got to teach these youngins, man. Teach them so they know. Correct them when you know they are wrong. Because you know what? We do that. We do that. We're not out here trying to say we've done everything of substance in the world. Other groups of people did things of importance too. But you got to know who your mother and father are. That
Absolutely.
your days may be long upon the earth. And the mothers and fathers of this entire world, until somebody finds skeletons and artifacts that go back further, are in Africa, man.
That's right. So now
You
here's
just
the thing.
have to understand that. And you got
As
to
it-
embrace that and accept that.
As it relates to hip hop, can you name a break beat that's popular in hip hop that comes from a Spanish language record?
My brother, I can't lie to you. I don't know one.
You don't know any
just...
because there aren't any. And I'll put that challenge out to anyone in the chat or anyone watching the pre-recorded on YouTube. If you could put that in the chat, I would love to see it. And I'm saying that only because most Spanish language music, they use hand percussion. So the beats are not kicks and snares. In hip hop, the kicks and snares, that's where your breaks come from. They don't come from hand percussion or records that just have exclusively hand percussion and no kicks and snares. So that you can't really tie that to Latin culture, quote unquote Latin culture, because we didn't sample or spin break beats from Spanish language records because there weren't any. Now,
right.
Not saying they don't use kicks and snares because they got reggae tone now, which they got from us, right? Using kicks and snares. But in terms of breaks in hip hop, there's no break that comes from a Spanish language record.
So look, man, I'm gonna add on to that, brother Ralo, and I wish I could find it. But if anyone looks for this, they'll find. Look up one of the greatest guitar players of all time, Carlos Santana. He was on Miseducation of Lauryn Hill on the Zion record. He's on a few records. Bad, brother, with that guitar. He's around in that Black Power, Black Arts movement family. Y'all better study that and see how Blacks and Latinos were working together. Better know your history. And if you see ignorant people out here, you better politicize. You OGs who know, you better pull your little Latino nephews and nieces. You better school them. Say no, watch your mouth now, because that gang saved your uncle's life, and that gang gave your uncle a job, and that organization put your uncle on. You better tell them. Listen, Carlos Santana is quoted as saying, a lot of these musical forms that some of my brethren talking about Latinos claim, he said, it's all African. He just put it that simple. He just said, it's all derived from Africa. We put a spin on it. We may use this different type of instrument, but it's all African derived. He's clear. And, amongst some Latinos, they would say, oh, he's selling. I know he's telling the truth. Telling the truth is liberating. You don't have to lie. You don't have to worry about somebody catching you out there and tell the truth.
Not only that,
so even the Latino OGs, Tito Puente and them, they'll tell you. Carlos Santana, they'll tell you. Stop doing these young Fat Joe people that aren't historians and aren't politically inclined and conscious. Go to people who have that history and ask them, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you. But listen, family, you have misplaced resentment. We ain't done a damn thing to you but put you on. That's the truth.
As in the case of Diamond D and digging in the crates and Fat Joe.
Yeah, and Diamond D, shout out to Diamond D, Cardinal Hayes, shout out to Fat Man School, rest in power and peace. Yeah, that's my man. Like you gotta just give that up. Tell the truth and shame the devil. But when you lie, you become part of the devil. And when you vote for the devil, you become part of the devil. And when you defend the devil, you become part of the devil. Stop it. Get on the right side of history, man. We got to stop that. And I'm calling it out. When I see it, I'm calling it out. And I ain't going to keep it on hip-hop, Ralo. They want us to keep it in Puerto Ricans. It's a much deeper discussion. Who created music?
Right.
Talk to me. Who created art? Who put spirituality and cosmology in here? And trigonometry and secret societies?
Yeah, I'm glad you said
monuments.
That. I got my brother DJ Tiger. He wants to chime in. I'm going to bring him in a minute, but I want to say this: hip hop is a very drum beat driven music, right? what is the origin of the drum? The origin of the drum is Africa. So you can't take credit for that. Not only
That's
that,
why I said, where's it? See, we can end all that by saying, okay, where does music itself come from? We can make the argument much larger.
not only that,
But yeah,
not only that, the idea of the griots. You know what the griots are? These were your storytellers in Africa. They would tell stories to drumming. So there's rhythmic talking to music that began in Africa. Breaking. For those people in the martial arts and know what capoeira is, they do that on the floor. It looks like the b-boys breaking. So that began in Africa. And you also have in ancient Kemet, they were doing artwork on the wall. Doing artwork on the wall does not begin with graffiti writers in New York City. So hip hop culture is actually an Africanism. This is a term in anthropology that basically that says that African culture, like wherever African people find themselves in the world, they're practicing some element of African culture. That's an Africanism. Anyone can look up
and
that.
Guess what? Guess who coined the term?
Melvin Herskovitz,
a white man,
a white Jew. Yeah, I know that.
In other words, people that's real can give it up.
Right.
This is a white Jew who coined the term Africanism.
But hold on, word on the
sociologist.
Word on the street says he didn't come up with that concept. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm just saying, DJ Tiger is in the building.
Yes, Tiger, peace, brother.
What's going on with you? Hey, fellas, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good to see y'all, man. Happy New Year and everything. I'm definitely loving the discussion. I actually was gonna have a discussion last night on my show I do on Mondays, but we pushed it to next week because we're trying to get Rob Swift on the show.
Okay.
It's just been a lot of dissension within the hip hop culture because of this. And I mean, I'm kind of on the side of we're so quick to fight each other, yet they dropped the ball on hip hop, period. The corporations bastardized it. You have the people that are putting out this music for years that's been negative to the kids, and because of the internet changing, before I didn't hear the music that my kids hear now because it wasn't played. I had to sneak and listen to a Richard Pryor record. They get access to this music that drops sex and F bombs, before their brains can mature. So to me, like, the bigger issue with me is, why are we so quick to jump on each other when we drop the ball on, what happened with hip hop? And it's just, I don't know. I just see a lot of people that are pioneers and veterans in the game that are not black are getting shitted on with their contributions. You know what I mean? And like, to me, that's not right. Like there's been so many people that were black that shitted on hip hop, or there's been a lot of people that didn't put their contributions to the culture and talking down on people that did, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really leaving a bad taste in my mouth on it. Now I understand the culture of music, of like black people invented music, period, blues and other stuff that was co-opted, but I just think with hip hop, I just think the people that were there and part of that culture, that when it started in the streets, because they didn't have a voice. When I used to watch the documentaries and even some of the movies, I saw Black and Latinos together. Now I understand there's the Latinos from the generation before that, yeah, like their parents, they were like, why are you listening to that jungle music? Why, I get it. There was a lot of racist going on with that, where they didn't want them to listen to our music or be around us. But the ones I saw were connected with us. You know, the ones I saw, you know, were struggling with us, you know, in the 80s or, you know, 70s and 80s, you know. And so I don't know, I just have a different take on it. Being from Long Island, I grew up with a lot of Spanish people as well that are connected with me. I mean, one of my sons is half Puerto Rican. You know, my wife is Puerto Rican, Dominican, you know, so maybe there's a little bias on that too as well. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just a whole lot of negative dissension going on with it, and with, you know, the dude Tariq, you know, like I don't rock with him at all. And you know, that's what I just wanted to say, and just chime in on it, you know.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
But I respect what y'all saying. Like this is dope. You know, I want to, Ralo, I want to have you on our show next week.
Most definitely.
You know, because I think healthy debate is good. You know,
most definitely, yes. Brother Agyei, you have opinion or response to what Tiger just said?
Yeah, man. I respect grown, intelligent people's opinions, even if I disagree with them. I respect his opinion. I'm not, you know, small-minded like that. But for me, that's why I tried to address it differently. I gave historical facts,
right?
Not just right.
Not just what someone else said.
Some of it was anecdotal when I told you what happened to me, and I told you my personal experiences.
Right.
So no, I understand. And brother, just so you know, I tried to cover that. I said I'm talking to a specific group of Latinos here.
Yes, right.
And I want to be clear that when I was young, let's say teenage years, it wasn't just people my age, parents saying that. There was a girl, I'm not going to call her name, who said that me and my boys look like gorillas.
Wow.
Black gorillas. She was our age.
Yeah.
The ball buster gang that shot at me and my boy twice and was trying to jump people, black people, the community, they were our age.
Right.
So it's important we know the history. And it's important that y'all be clear that I even said some of black people are ignorant and backwards. I hope y'all heard me. I said some of us are backwards.
Yeah, because people just choose what they want to hear.
It's the same shit that we. It's like a mirror. Right. When you see that, you're looking at a mirror. You're like, damn. Some of us selling drugs to each other, hitting old ladies over the head that our mothers know.
Yep.
Breaking each other's homes. It's a mirror. You're seeing the same sickness. But what I go back to always is who bit us? Who gave us that? Where did that come from? And so we need to resolve that, tell the truth, shame the devil, and we need to organize, form politicized alliances. That's why some people want us to be divided because they remember when them young lords and them Black Panthers were strapping up.
Yes, they tried to change the laws.
People don't know the history.
Yeah.
And when police officers were getting retribution. People remember that.
Right.
And they want to create all these, these intra-group hate sessions going. So we don't say, yo, man, you are members. When we say African diaspora, what do we mean? Nicaragua, Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, right?
DR, yep.
Right? That's what DR. We're talking about those people. That's if you say African diaspora, that's who you're talking about.
Right.
So to me, these are all attempts to exacerbate tensions and divisions to destroy Pan-Africanism. See, that's that's what I'm trying to get. This ain't just about hip hop. This is much larger.
Yeah, I believe there's agents. I do believe that.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Now, Tiger, you talked about the division between Black and Latino, and I'm not for the division because I know that there's strength in numbers. We're stronger together than we will ever be separate. And we have people power, but we don't understand people power because we're not organized. And organized people can do anything, and working together works. So, and I'm gonna make this the last question because I got to get off. If we remain divided, who benefits from the division? Tiger, I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh, we know who benefits from the division. I mean, you have from the government, you have from other factions that, there's factions they see how easily we like you said, there's some hate within each other from our own people.
Sure.
And I believe the agents that they spark that because they know a lot of us work on emotion
Absolutely.
and don't sit back and try to analyze everything.
Sure.
You know, so.
But Agyei, who benefits from the division?
I agree with brother DJ Tiger said. Obviously, white supremacy as an institution,
that's what I was
going. Supremacists as its agents benefit. And again, we can talk about all of these different things where Native Americans and escaped African enslaved people work together. We can talk about situations where the Brown Berets and the Young Lords and the Black Panthers worked together and created new hospitals, took over churches. I mean, family, this is real talk. What can happen when people are able to see we have common histories? We're not completely identical. We bring unique flavors to the equation, but we have common enemies and experiences. We work together. We can get things done. We argue and quarrel, and guess what happens? Some of us go work for them. Some of the Latinos go work for them.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Right. Think about it.
Absolutely. All right, people. I got to go ahead and get off of here. But Tiger, I want to thank you for chiming in.
Appreciate definitely,
brother.
Thank y'all brothers, man. Keep doing the work, man. I appreciate y'all, doing this on the channel and everything. And people out there that are watching, subscribe, and see y'all next week.
That's right.
Yeah,
subscribe to this channel, fam. Check out DJ Tiger and that music. He's killing it with that music.
I'll be live tonight at 8.
That's what's up.
I appreciate y'all.
Check out Harlem Liberation School on YouTube as well. And I put the Cash App link in the chat, but we got so much in the chat that it's back there somewhere. But either way, I want to thank
know there's a lot in that chat. I know.
Oh yeah,
it was buzzing today, huh?
Oh yeah, it was on fire today. All right, brothers, I'm gonna get off. I want to thank you both again, and we're gonna do it again soon. All right?
That's what's up. Peace.
Thank you, y'all.
All right, peace.